Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Learn English with Podcast Conversation. Today, we're talking about a skill that's both important and challenging starting conversations with strangers. Whether it's at a social event, work, or even a cafe, knowing how to engage can open up great opportunities.
That's right, Jennifer. Starting a conversation might seem intimidating, but it's easier than you think once you know the right strategies. In this episode, we'll share practical tips, useful phrases, and confidence-building advice to help you connect with anyone. Let's get started.
A great way to start is with a simple, friendly greeting. You can say, "Hi, how are you?" or "Hello, nice to meet you." It's non-threatening and makes the other person feel comfortable. A warm, confident tone makes all the difference.
I agree. Adding a smile can make the interaction feel even friendlier. When you combine a greeting like, "Hi, my name is Thomas, what's yours?" with a positive expression, it signals that you're open to talking and creates a welcoming atmosphere.
You can also use situational phrases to start the conversation. For example, if you're at a party, you could say, "This is a great event." How do you know the host? It's casual, engaging, and connects to your shared surroundings.
Exactly, situational openers make it easy to find common ground. Another example is asking about something you both see. For instance, that presentation was interesting, wasn't it? What did you think about it? This naturally leads to a back and forth.
You could also try giving a compliment. Something simple like, "I love your shoes. Where did you get them?" Or "You have a great energy. What's your secret?" People appreciate kind words and are often happy to respond.
Yes, compliments work wonders. Just make sure they're genuine. A thoughtful comment can make someone feel valued and eager to continue the conversation. Starting with positivity sets a great tone for the interaction.
Once you've broken the ice, keep the conversation flowing with open-ended questions. Instead of asking something like, "Do you live nearby?" try, "What do you enjoy most about living here?" This encourages the other person to share more details.
Open-ended questions are great for avoiding one-word answers. For instance, what do you think of this event, or what inspired you to join today? These questions give the other person space to express their thoughts, leading to a richer conversation.
Another good question is, "What's been the highlight of your week so far?" It's easy to answer, lighthearted, and often leads to follow-up questions. People enjoy reflecting on positive experiences and sharing their stories.
Exactly, Jennifer. You could also ask something like, "What do you do for fun when you're not working?" This opens up a chance to talk about hobbies, interests, or even exciting experiences they've had recently.
And if the person mentions something you're interested in, show curiosity. For example, "That sounds fascinating. How did you get into it?" Showing genuine interest keeps the conversation lively and makes the person feel heard.
Absolutely. Asking follow-up questions based on their responses creates a natural rhythm. For example, if they mention they enjoy cooking, ask, "What's your favorite dish to make?" Or "Have you tried any unique recipes lately?"
A shared context can be a great starting point. For example, if you're in a class or meeting, ask, "What do you think about the topic we just discussed?" This invites their opinion and shows you're engaged with the environment around you.
Yes, shared settings create a natural link. At a coffee shop, you could say, "This place has amazing coffee. What's your favorite drink here?" It's easygoing and feels relevant to the situation, which makes it easier for someone to respond openly.
Another idea is to comment on the atmosphere. If you're at a conference, you could say, "This is such a well-organized event. Have you attended before?" It's a simple way to get started and shows interest in shared experiences.
If you notice something interesting, you can use it as an icebreaker. For example, "That keynote speaker had some intriguing ideas. What stood out to you?" Shared topics encourage thoughtful responses and keep the conversation engaging.
You can also use humor in shared contexts. For instance, if you're waiting in a long line, you might joke, this line gives us plenty of time to become friends. Humor breaks the tension and helps both people feel at ease.
That's a great tip. Another example is pointing out something unique, like an interesting outfit or accessory. That's a great pin on your jacket. Does it have a story? Compliments tied to shared observations feel more meaningful.
It's natural to feel nervous, but confidence makes a big difference. Before approaching someone, take a deep breath and remind yourself it's okay to make the first move. People are often grateful when someone else starts the conversation.
I agree. Confidence doesn't mean being perfect. It's about being approachable, smiling, and maintaining eye contact show you're interested and friendly. Even small gestures like nodding while they speak make the interaction more comfortable.
If nerves creep in, focus on your breathing. Steady breathing calms your mind and body, helping you think more clearly. Also, remember, the goal is to connect, not to impress. Authenticity is far more engaging than perfection.
Exactly, Jennifer. A great trick is to rehearse a few openers beforehand. Phrases like, "Hi, I'm Thomas. How are you enjoying the event?" give you a solid starting point. Once you start, the conversation often flows naturally.
Another tip is to remind yourself that everyone gets nervous. If you stumble, laugh it off and keep going. People appreciate real moments. For example, "Oops, I'm a bit nervous. How's your day going?" turns an awkward moment into an opportunity.
Yes, vulnerability can be relatable. Also, think of each interaction as practice. The more you start conversations, the more confident you'll become. Over time, it'll feel less daunting and more like an enjoyable opportunity to meet new people.
Once the conversation starts, keep it engaging by being an active listener. Nod, smile, and react to what they say. For example, "Wow, that's fascinating. Tell me more about it." Showing interest encourages them to share further.
Good point, Jennifer. Building on their responses also helps. If someone mentions they love traveling, say, "That's amazing. What's your favorite destination so far?" Open-ended follow-ups deepen the conversation and make it feel more meaningful.
You can also share something about yourself to keep the balance. For instance, "I love hiking too. Last summer, I explored some trails near the Rockies. Have you been there?" Sharing personal anecdotes makes the exchange more interactive.
Exactly. Conversations feel more natural when both people contribute. Another idea is to pivot gently if the topic starts to fade. That's really interesting. By the way, what do you usually enjoy doing on weekends? Helps maintain a smooth flow.
Don't forget to be positive. Compliment their story or perspective, like, "That's such a creative way to solve the problem." Positivity leaves a great impression and encourages them to keep engaging with you.
Yes, positivity is key, and if the conversation comes to a natural pause, wrap it up gracefully. "It was so nice talking to you. I'd love to connect again sometime." Leaving on a high note makes the interaction memorable.
If you're in a class or meeting, say, "What did you think of today's session?" "I found it really insightful." This makes the other person feel valued. When you're in a cafe, you could ask, "What's your favorite drink here?" "I'm always looking for recommendations."
In professional settings, asking about someone's role works well. For instance, "What's your favorite part of your job?" shows curiosity without being intrusive. At social events, you can start with, "How do you know the host?" These are natural icebreakers.
When meeting someone at a mutual friends gathering, say, "How do you know Alex?" It's an easy way to establish a connection and build on shared associations. If you're at a wedding, try, "Have you met the couple before?" It's relatable and sets the tone.
For travel situations, comment on the shared journey. At an airport, say, "Where are you traveling to?" Or on a tour, ask, "What inspired you to visit this place?" Shared experiences naturally open conversations and create opportunities to connect.
At a bookstore or library, ask about interests. "What's a book you'd recommend?" sparks enthusiasm, especially for avid readers. Similarly, at the gym, what workout routine works best for you? Is practical and can lead to engaging exchanges.
Shared moments of humor work too. If you're stuck in traffic with someone, say, "Do you think we'll ever get out of this jam?" It lightens the mood. When you relate to someone's environment, your words resonate and create a friendly connection.
It's important to steer clear of sensitive topics when starting a conversation. Avoid politics or overly personal questions. Instead, focus on neutral topics like the event you're attending or hobbies. This keeps things light and comfortable.
Yes, oversharing too early can feel overwhelming. Stick to topics that invite them to share without pressure. For instance, what's your favorite way to spend weekends feels casual. Keep deeper personal topics for later when you know them better.
Also, avoid dominating the conversation. If you talk too much, it may feel one-sided. A good rule is to balance speaking with listening. For every fact you share, ask a question in return, like, "What about you? What's your experience?"
Interrupting is another common pitfall. Let the other person finish their thoughts before jumping in. For example, if someone's sharing about their favorite hobby, wait until they pause to say, "That's great. How did you get into it?" This shows respect.
Avoiding negative or critical comments is equally important. If someone mentions a movie or book you didn't enjoy, respond with, "That's an interesting choice. What made you like it?" This keeps the tone positive and respectful.
Finally, stay present. Checking your phone or looking away during a conversation can make the other person feel ignored. Focus on them fully. A simple, "I'd love to hear more about that," makes them feel valued and strengthens the connection.
Finding common ground builds rapport quickly. If someone mentions they enjoy cooking, say, "I love cooking too. What's your go-to dish?" Shared interests create a natural flow, making the conversation enjoyable for both.
Exactly. If they're passionate about sports, you could ask, "Who's your favorite team?" Or, "Do you play too?" This keeps the focus on them and creates an avenue to explore mutual interests, which often leads to richer discussions.
If they mention travel, ask specific questions like, "What's the most interesting place you visited?" Or, "Do you have a dream destination?" This not only shows genuine interest, but also opens up opportunities to share related experiences.
Music is another great topic. If they mention their favorite genre or artist, respond with, "That's cool. Have you been to any live concerts recently?" Questions like this show interest and give them the chance to share what excites them.
Hobbies are always an easy win. If someone mentions painting or gardening, say, "That's awesome. How did you start?" Showing curiosity about their passions fosters a deeper connection and keeps the interaction meaningful.
Absolutely. Building on shared interests creates lasting impressions. Ending with a casual, "I'd love to hear more about that sometime," leaves the door open for future conversations and solidifies the bond you've created.
Once the small talk is flowing, it's time to dive deeper. You can say something like, "That's interesting. How did you get into that?" This invites them to share more personal experiences and encourages a stronger connection beyond surface-level chat.
Exactly. For example, after discussing hobbies, you could say, "What do you enjoy most about that activity?" This gives them a chance to talk about what they truly care about. Showing interest in their passion deepens the conversation naturally.
When transitioning, it's key to ask open-ended questions. What's been the most exciting part of your year so far? Helps shift the conversation into more meaningful territory. This lets the other person share experiences that matter to them.
When the conversation naturally flows, you can start to ask about their dreams or aspirations. A question like, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" opens the door to a deeper exchange about their life goals. People enjoy talking about their future.
Another way to guide the conversation into deeper waters is by sharing something personal. For instance, "I've been working on a personal project lately. It's been really exciting. How about you?" Anything you're passionate about these days?
Also, after establishing comfort, you can ask questions that reveal their values or beliefs. Something like, "What's something that really inspires you in life?" can create an atmosphere for a rich and meaningful exchange.
There are times when conversations may hit an awkward pause. When that happens, it's important not to panic. You can say, "I was just thinking, how do you usually spend your weekends?" This keeps the momentum going and fills the gap smoothly.
If the silence continues, don't force anything. A simple, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make things awkward," can often break the tension. A light-hearted approach makes the situation more comfortable without making it a big deal.
It's okay to acknowledge the awkwardness sometimes. Humor works well here. Try saying, "I guess we both had a moment there. Hi. Anyway, I wanted to ask you about your latest project. It sounds fascinating." This keeps the conversation moving forward.
If you feel like the conversation is stalling, shift to something neutral like, "Have you seen any good movies or shows lately?" It's a great way to get back into the flow without making things uncomfortable. Always aim for a smooth pivot.
If there's ever a moment where things don't quite go as planned, just stay composed. A simple "let's change topics, shall we?" can keep things light. It's always good to keep a sense of humor, and people appreciate your ability to remain unbothered.
In uncomfortable moments, showing patience and understanding works wonders. Acknowledge that sometimes silence is okay. You could say, "Sometimes conversations need a bit of a pause, don't you think?" This relaxes both you and your conversational partner.
When it's time to wrap up, always end on a positive note. A good way is, "It's been great talking with you. I've really enjoyed hearing about your experiences. Let's chat again soon." It leaves the door open for future interactions.
Ending with a compliment is another great strategy. Something like, "I really like your perspective on this. It's been refreshing talking to someone with such insight," makes the other person feel valued and appreciated as the conversation ends.
Another great way to end is by tying the conversation to future opportunities. You can say, "This was a fun chat. I'd love to continue it next time we meet. Maybe we can grab coffee." It gives you a natural segue to future meetings.
You can also end with a thank you. "Thanks for sharing all that. I've really learned a lot. I hope we get to talk more sometime." This leaves a positive impression and shows gratitude for their time and conversation.
Ending on a friendly note with, "It was so nice meeting you. I look forward to catching up again." Lets them know you're interested in continuing the relationship without any pressure. It's a warm way to part ways.
Finally, a casual close like, "Take care. I hope we can have another chat soon," is a nice way to wrap things up. It leaves things open-ended without feeling forced, and both parties can look forward to the next conversation.
To keep the conversation flowing smoothly, you need to be aware of social cues. For example, if the person is looking around or giving short answers, it might be a sign that they're losing interest. Pay attention to these subtle signals.
Exactly. You should also observe body language. If they're leaning in or making eye contact, it's a good indication they're engaged. On the other hand, if they're crossing their arms or backing away, it might be time to wrap up or change the topic.
Sometimes people can be polite, but not overly interested. If they're giving one-word answers, that could indicate they're not keen on continuing the conversation. In this case, it's important to either change the topic or gracefully end it.
If you feel like the conversation is drifting, you can try to re-engage them by saying, "I'm really curious, what's your take on this?" Asking for their opinion can reignite their interest and create a more personal connection.
Reading facial expressions can also give you valuable insight. If they're smiling and laughing, they're likely enjoying the chat. But if their face looks tense or they're looking at their watch, they might be in a hurry or uncomfortable.
Body language isn't always obvious, though. If they're nodding but their eyes are darting around the room, they may be distracted. In that case, you could say, "I can tell you've got a lot going on today." Would you like to continue this another time?
It's important to remember that your own body language plays a huge role in the conversation too. Standing or sitting with open posture can make you seem more approachable and engaged. Avoid crossing your arms or looking at your phone.
That's right. Your gestures can also convey openness. If you're nodding while they speak, it signals that you're actively listening. It's about creating an environment where the other person feels comfortable enough to open up.
Another thing to keep in mind is your facial expressions. A warm smile can make a big difference in how you're perceived. A genuine smile invites conversation, making you seem more friendly and approachable to the other person.
Right, and try to maintain good eye contact. Not too intense, but enough to show you're focused. It helps establish trust and lets the other person know you're engaged and interested in what they're saying.
Keeping your posture relaxed is key too. If you're stiff or too formal, it can create a barrier. Try leaning slightly forward to show interest, but be careful not to invade personal space. Balance is everything when it comes to body language.
And don't forget about your tone of voice. A conversational tone rather than a monotone one will make the exchange more pleasant. If you sound enthusiastic, the other person will pick up on that energy and likely mirror it.
Starting a conversation can be nerve-wracking, but it's important to focus on being genuine. If you feel nervous, remind yourself that it's okay. Everyone has moments of uncertainty. The key is to stay calm and confident in your approach.
Absolutely. It's normal to feel nervous at first. A great tip is to focus on the other person instead of yourself. Shift the attention to them and ask about something they care about. This helps take the pressure off you.
You can also practice positive self-talk. Before approaching someone, try saying to yourself, "I've got this. I'm a good listener, and I have interesting things to say." Building your confidence in this way makes it easier to approach new people.
Another confidence booster is to remember that most people are just as nervous as you are. They appreciate a friendly face and a thoughtful question. When you approach someone, think about how much you'd enjoy meeting a person who is confident but kind.
Try to focus on the fact that it's not about impressing others, but just about connecting. When you realize that the conversation is more about sharing experiences than impressing someone, it helps ease the anxiety.
And if you still feel nervous, try practicing with a friend. The more you practice initiating conversations, the more natural it will feel in different settings. Over time, it'll become second nature to start conversations with anyone.
Humor is a great tool for starting a conversation. A light joke or funny observation can immediately ease the tension. Just be mindful of the situation. For instance, don't try humor if the other person seems too serious or focused.
Exactly. Humor creates a sense of connection and shared experience. However, it's important to keep it appropriate and neutral. You don't want to risk offending anyone or making them feel uncomfortable with a joke that could be misinterpreted.
A simple way to use humor is by making light of a shared experience. For example, if you're at a party, you might say, "This place is so packed. I'm starting to feel like I'm in a sardine can." It's a funny observation that invites a smile and conversation.
Humor can also help you seem more relaxed and approachable. If you can make someone laugh, you immediately make the atmosphere less formal, which often leads to more natural conversation. It shows you don't take yourself too seriously.
That's true, Thomas. And if the conversation is stalling, humor can help revive it. A witty comment or light-hearted remark can get things back on track and encourage the other person to open up.
Humor isn't about telling a perfect joke, it's about being genuine. If you can laugh at yourself or make a self-deprecating comment, it shows that you're comfortable and confident, which will make the other person feel at ease.
Open-ended questions are great for keeping the conversation going. Instead of asking yes, no questions, try something like, "What do you enjoy doing in your free time?" It allows the other person to share more, giving you more to discuss.
That's a great point, Jennifer. Open-ended questions not only keep the conversation flowing, but they also show interest in the other person's experiences. For example, asking how did you get into your line of work invites a detailed response.
And when they share something, respond with genuine follow-up questions to keep the conversation alive. If they mention a hobby, ask, "What got you started with that?" It shows you're paying attention and care about their story.
Exactly, it's all about creating a back and forth. When someone feels heard, they're more likely to open up. Asking questions like what's been the highlight of your week shows you're interested in the details of their life.
Another great open-ended question to try is, what's the most interesting thing you've learned recently? It's broad enough to open up a variety of topics, whether they're about work, hobbies, or personal experiences.
And remember, even if their answer doesn't give you much to go on, you can always ask more specific follow-ups. It can lead to deeper topics and get the conversation flowing without awkward pauses.
One way to make a conversation feel more personal is by sharing your own experiences. You don't want to dominate the conversation, but offering a related story shows you're not just asking questions, but connecting on a deeper level.
That's right. Personal stories help the other person relate to you. For example, if they talk about a recent trip, you can say, "That sounds amazing. I went on a similar trip to Italy last year and had the best time. What was your favorite part of the journey?"
Sharing stories also helps you appear more approachable. If you're not afraid to open up about your experiences, the other person will feel more comfortable doing the same. It's about creating a space of mutual understanding.
Absolutely. And remember, your stories don't have to be life-changing, they just need to be genuine. A simple story about your day, a funny encounter, or an interesting experience can help establish a stronger connection with someone.
Just be careful not to make the conversation all about you. Balance is key. Share your story, but then let them respond and tell theirs. That keeps the conversation flowing in both directions, making it more engaging for both parties.
Exactly. Jennifer, the goal is to foster a two-way exchange. So when you share a story, pause and invite them to share their own perspective. It turns a simple chat into a deeper conversation that's both meaningful and enjoyable.
Compliments are a fantastic way to break the ice. A genuine compliment can make the other person feel appreciated and valued. It could be something as simple as, "I love your style," or "Your smile is contagious." It's an easy way to start a positive interaction.
Exactly, Jennifer. A compliment can build rapport right from the start. But it's important to keep it sincere. If you really mean it, it's likely to create a more lasting impression. Avoid generic compliments like "you look nice" and aim for specifics.
That's a great point, Thomas. Compliments on someone's work or accomplishments can also be a good starting point. For instance, "I noticed you're working on a project. How's it going?" It opens up the door for a deeper conversation.
I completely agree. Complimenting someone's skills or knowledge shows that you're genuinely interested in who they are as a person. It can go a long way in making the conversation feel more personal and authentic.
A great way to use compliments is by noticing something unique about the person. It could be their choice of accessories or the way they express themselves. For example, "Your watch is really unique. What's the story behind it?" This sparks curiosity.
Another angle is complimenting their ideas or opinions during a conversation. For example, "That's a great perspective. I hadn't thought of it that way before." It encourages further discussion and shows you value their input.
One of the best ways to build a connection is by finding common ground. It can be something as simple as a shared interest or experience. When you find something in common, it gives you an immediate topic to bond over.
That's a powerful way to form a connection. For instance, if you discover you both love hiking, you can talk about your favorite trails, places to visit, and even gear recommendations. Common interests make the conversation flow naturally.
Exactly. And the best part about finding common ground is that it can come from anywhere. It could be a shared passion for a sport, a favorite book, or even a mutual acquaintance. Once you discover that, you've got a conversation starter that's personal.
Right, and it doesn't have to be limited to personal interests, it could be a shared situation. For example, if you're both at an event, you can talk about your impressions of it. What did you think of the keynote speaker? I thought they had some interesting points.
That's a great example, Thomas. Shared experiences make people feel like they're in the same boat. It creates an immediate bond and makes the conversation more engaging and meaningful.
And when you find that common ground, be sure to explore it. Ask open-ended questions about the shared interest, and it will lead to even more conversation. It shows you're genuinely interested in what the other person likes and values.
Active listening is crucial in any conversation, especially with strangers. When you really listen, you show respect and understanding. Avoid interrupting and instead focus on what the other person is saying. It makes them feel heard and valued.
Exactly, Jennifer. Active listening isn't just about hearing the words, but also understanding the meaning behind them. A great way to show you're listening is by nodding or using phrases like, "That's interesting. Tell me more about that."
And asking follow-up questions is a key part of active listening. It shows that you're not only listening, but that you're also engaged. For example, if they mention a recent trip, ask, "What was the highlight of your trip?" to keep the conversation going.
I agree. When you listen actively, you build trust. The other person feels comfortable sharing more, knowing that you're genuinely paying attention. It's also important to avoid distractions during the conversation, like checking your phone.
That's an important point, Thomas. Being fully present is one of the best ways to establish a meaningful connection. If you give someone your full attention, it shows respect and encourages them to engage with you on a deeper level.
Active listening also means responding thoughtfully. It's not about just waiting for your turn to speak. It's about acknowledging the other person's feelings or experiences, like saying, "That sounds challenging, how did you handle it?"
Open-ended questions are essential for keeping a conversation flowing. Instead of asking questions that can be answered with yes or no, try questions like, "What do you enjoy doing in your free time?" It invites the other person to share more about themselves.
I agree, Jennifer. Open-ended questions create opportunities for a deeper discussion. For example, asking someone about their passions or projects allows them to speak freely. People love talking about things they're passionate about, and it keeps the conversation lively.
Exactly, Thomas. When you ask about someone's hobbies or experiences, it shows interest in their personal world. You can also ask about their future goals with a question like, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" It invites reflection and opens the conversation up.
A great example, Jennifer, and when you ask these types of questions, it's important to be genuinely curious. Your body language, tone, and follow-up questions should show that you're truly invested in what the other person is saying.
That's key, Thomas. Open-ended questions lead to stories and insights. For instance, you could ask, "How did you get started with your career?" That question invites a story, giving you something to connect with them over and keeps the conversation engaging.
Definitely, and when you ask open-ended questions, you create a safe space for the other person to share more. It's an easy way to keep the conversation going while letting the other person feel heard and understood.
Awkward silences happen in almost every conversation, especially with strangers. The key is not to panic. If there's a pause, just take a deep breath and remember it's perfectly normal. A simple way to navigate it is by asking a casual question to break the silence.
Exactly. An awkward silence doesn't have to be uncomfortable if you handle it well. You can simply say something like, "What's your favorite way to relax after a busy week?" It gives both of you something to talk about without forcing the conversation.
Another way to handle awkward silences is by sharing something personal. It doesn't have to be deeply personal, just a little insight into your life. For example, "I just tried this amazing new restaurant last weekend. Have you been to any good places lately?"
That's a great approach, Jennifer. Sharing a bit about yourself helps fill the silence while making the other person feel more comfortable. It opens the door for them to respond with something of their own, which naturally leads to more conversation.
And if there's a silence, try not to force an answer. Instead of nervously filling the silence, give the other person a moment to respond. This shows patience and helps the conversation feel more relaxed and authentic.
True, Jennifer. A little pause can actually make the conversation more thoughtful. Sometimes the other person just needs a moment to gather their thoughts. By staying calm, you can create an atmosphere where both of you feel at ease.
Nonverbal communication is just as important as what you say in a conversation. Your body language, facial expressions, and tone of voice all contribute to how your message is received. Positive body language, like maintaining eye contact, shows attentiveness.
Absolutely, Jennifer, and leaning in slightly can signal that you're engaged. People notice these cues and they make a big difference in how comfortable someone feels. Even a smile can put someone at ease and make the conversation feel warmer and more open.
Another important aspect of nonverbal communication is your posture. If you stand or sit in an open, relaxed position, it encourages others to feel the same. Crossed arms can create distance, while an open stance invites connection.
Right. A warm, welcoming posture can make a world of difference in how your message is perceived. Subtle things like nodding while the other person is speaking also show you're actively listening and engaged in the conversation.
And don't underestimate the power of a friendly facial expression. A genuine smile can break the ice and make the conversation feel less intimidating. It's a simple yet powerful way to show openness and make the other person feel comfortable.
Indeed, Jennifer, nonverbal cues often speak louder than words. They provide extra context to the conversation and can help communicate feelings and intent without saying anything. Be mindful of your body language to create a positive atmosphere.
Feeling nervous before talking to strangers is completely normal. The key is to focus on the other person instead of yourself. Shift the attention away from your own anxiety and onto what you can learn from the other person. This helps ease tension.
That's such a good point, Jennifer. When you focus on being curious about the other person's experiences or opinions, it takes the pressure off you. Plus, people generally enjoy talking about themselves, so they'll appreciate your interest.
Another tip is to practice positive self-talk. Instead of thinking, "I'll probably say something wrong," try telling yourself, "I'm just here to have a friendly chat and learn something new." Shifting your mindset helps reduce anxiety and makes you more relaxed.
Exactly. A positive mindset makes a huge difference. Remember, people aren't focusing on every little thing you say, they're just enjoying the interaction. Embrace the moment and focus on the exchange rather than worrying about perfecting your words.
Also, keep in mind that most people are just as nervous as you are. You're not alone in feeling this way. Acknowledging this fact can make you feel less pressured and more empathetic toward the other person, helping you both relax.
Totally. Jennifer, sometimes simply acknowledging that nerves are normal can make the conversation feel more natural. And once you get started, the nerves usually fade away. It's just about taking that first step, which is often the hardest part.
Ending a conversation doesn't have to be awkward if you do it gracefully. One way is to summarize something you've talked about. For example, "It's been great hearing about your travels in Europe. I'll have to check out some of those places you mentioned."
That's a great technique, Jennifer. Offering a summary shows you were truly paying attention and appreciated the conversation. It's a polite way to close while also leaving a positive impression. You could also express your hope to speak again soon.
Exactly. You can say something like, "I really enjoyed chatting with you, and I hope we can continue this conversation sometime soon." It leaves the door open for future interactions and ensures that the other person feels valued.
A warm closing always works wonders. If you're meeting someone in a professional setting, you could say, "It was great learning about your work today. I hope we can collaborate in the future. This adds a note of positivity and future possibility.
If the conversation has been more casual, you could end with something lighthearted, like, "Well, I'll let you get back to your day, but I hope we'll cross paths again soon." It gives the conversation a friendly, non-pressured ending.
That's right. A simple, friendly closing can help end the conversation on a high note. And remember, even if the conversation didn't go as planned, a respectful and polite ending will leave a good impression.
Awkward silences can happen, especially when you're talking to a stranger. The key is to stay calm and not overthink it. A simple "What do you like to do in your free time?" can get the conversation moving again without making it feel forced.
Exactly, Jennifer. A light, open-ended question works wonders in these situations. It gives the other person a chance to share something about themselves and allows you to transition smoothly into a new topic. This breaks the silence without feeling rushed.
Another trick is to acknowledge the silence humorously. You could say something like, "I guess we're both thinking about what to say next." It can ease the tension and make the conversation feel more comfortable, especially when you laugh it off together.
Humor is a great way to diffuse awkwardness, Jennifer. By making the situation light-hearted, you can invite the other person to relax. Humor helps build rapport and shows that you're comfortable with the silence, making it feel less uncomfortable for both of you.
It's also helpful to embrace pauses as part of the conversation. Not every moment has to be filled with words. Sometimes, just taking a moment to reflect or gather your thoughts can help steer the conversation in a more natural direction.
I agree, Jennifer. Pauses can create a comfortable space where both people have time to think. In fact, some of the best conversations happen after a brief silence when both people are giving themselves time to process and respond thoughtfully.
Body language plays a huge role in starting conversations. By keeping an open posture and crossed arms, relaxed shoulders, and maintaining eye contact, you're sending a message that you're approachable and interested in connecting.
That's so true, Jennifer. A smile can go a long way too. It signals warmth and openness, making the other person feel more comfortable. Simple gestures like nodding and leaning slightly forward also show that you're engaged in the conversation.
It's also important to pay attention to the other person's body language. If they're leaning back or crossing their arms, they might not be as open to chatting. In those cases, you could try softening your tone or asking questions that make them feel more at ease.
Exactly, Jennifer. By observing their body language, you can adapt your approach. If they seem uncomfortable, adjusting your posture and tone can help create a more welcoming environment. Sometimes it's all about matching their energy and pace.
Sometimes just a little nod or smile when they're speaking can go a long way. It reassures the other person that you're listening, which is crucial for building trust. Nonverbal cues, like maintaining good posture, also contribute to a positive interaction.
Right, the subtle signs like eye contact, smiles, and posture speak volumes. Even if words fail, good body language can convey interest and respect. It's a powerful tool that we often overlook, but it greatly influences how conversations unfold.
Your surroundings can be a great conversation starter. If you're at a cafe, you could comment on the decor or ask for recommendations. This can lead to a discussion about favorite places or food, giving you a chance to learn about the other person.
Yes, I've found that commenting on something in the environment helps ease into a conversation. For instance, "This music is so relaxing, don't you think?" Or "Have you been to this cafe before?" are simple yet effective ways to break the ice.
Exactly. People enjoy talking about their favorite spots. If you're at a park, you could ask, "What's your favorite spot to visit here?" Or "Do you often come here to relax?" These kinds of questions create an easy way to connect over shared experiences.
And if you're at an event or party, you could ask, "How do you know the host?" or "What brought you to this event?" These questions are simple and specific to the situation, which helps the conversation feel more natural and less forced.
Using the environment also gives you an opportunity to share something about yourself. For example, I love the view from here. It reminds me of a trip I took to the mountains last year. This not only opens the door for them to share their own experiences, but also makes you seem more relatable.
Right, Jennifer, sharing something personal, like a favorite place or travel memory, helps create a connection. It's a great way to start a conversation without feeling like you have to come up with a super unique topic every time.
Open-ended questions are your best friend when starting a conversation. Rather than asking yes or no questions, try to ask something that encourages the other person to share more about themselves. For example, what's something you're passionate about?
Exactly, Jennifer. When you ask open-ended questions, you invite the person to dive deeper into a topic. Questions like, how did you get into that hobby? Or what do you enjoy most about it? Create more engaging and meaningful conversations.
Open-ended questions also help steer clear of yes or no answers, which can make a conversation feel forced or awkward. When someone gives a more detailed answer, it gives you a chance to learn more about their interests and dive into a richer discussion.
That's right, Jennifer. It's all about creating a flow. For example, asking someone, what's the best part about your job? Opens the door for them to talk about their experiences, which naturally leads to a more engaging exchange.
The beauty of open-ended questions is that they give you flexibility. You can keep asking follow-up questions based on their responses, which helps to deepen the conversation. For instance, what made you interested in that can keep the dialogue going smoothly.
Plus, they show you're genuinely interested in what the other person has to say. People love talking about themselves, and with open-ended questions, you're allowing them the opportunity to share more, making them feel valued and heard.
Compliments are an easy way to break the ice, but they should feel genuine. You could say something like, I love your jacket. Where did you get it? Or that's such an interesting idea. Compliments help build rapport and create a positive atmosphere.
That's a great tip, Jennifer. A compliment can also be a fantastic way to start a conversation because it immediately shows the other person that you're paying attention. It's a quick way to make someone feel good and comfortable in your presence.
Compliments work even better when they're specific. Instead of just saying, I like your shoes, try something like, those are really stylish. Where did you get them? This shows you're paying attention to details, and it invites the other person to engage in a more meaningful way.
Right. Specific compliments feel more personal, and it's easier for the other person to respond. For example, complimenting their skills or knowledge can open up a conversation about shared interests, such as you really seem to know your stuff about this.
Also, remember that compliments don't have to be just about appearance. Complimenting someone on their thoughts, ideas, or even their energy can be just as impactful. It shows you appreciate them beyond just how they look, which helps build a deeper connection.
Exactly, Jennifer. Complimenting their personality or the way they express themselves can lead to a much richer conversation. For example, I love how passionate you are about this topic. How did you get so into it?
Finding common ground is key to keeping a conversation going. If you discover shared interests, it creates an instant connection. For example, you might say, I noticed you're reading the same book I'm reading. How are you liking it so far?
That's a great approach, Jennifer. People enjoy discussing topics they care about. Asking about their interests, hobbies, or experiences helps uncover similarities between you, and from there, it's easy to create a meaningful conversation.
Another way to find common ground is by talking about the situation you're both in. If you're at an event, you could say, what made you decide to come to this event? It's a simple question that can reveal shared reasons or goals and open the door for further conversation.
Exactly. If you're at a conference or workshop, asking something like, what session are you looking forward to the most? Creates a chance to bond over the shared experience. This not only gets the conversation flowing, but also establishes a mutual interest.
It's helpful to stay open to learning about the other person's perspective, even if you don't have similar interests. You might be surprised at how a conversation about a new topic can lead to something interesting that you both enjoy discussing.
Right, Jennifer, sometimes, even if you don't have an immediate common interest, just showing curiosity about the other person's passions can lead to a deeper connection. Asking questions like, "What got you into that?" can open up new avenues for discussion.
Humor can be a great icebreaker. Sharing a light joke or funny observation can ease any tension and make both you and the other person feel more comfortable. For example, saying, "I swear the weather can't make up its mind today," is a casual way to start a conversation.
That's a great point, Jennifer. Humor helps break down barriers and creates a relaxed atmosphere. You don't have to tell a big joke, just a simple, humorous comment about something in your surroundings can make the conversation feel more natural.
The key with humor is to keep it light and appropriate for the situation. For instance, a comment about the coffee machine breaking down at work or a funny mix-up at a social event can get people smiling and lead into a more meaningful conversation.
Exactly. Humor makes you more approachable. It shows you're not taking yourself too seriously and encourages the other person to feel at ease. A shared laugh often brings people closer, making it easier to talk and build rapport quickly.
Humor can also be a great tool for making a connection with people from different backgrounds. A shared laugh can transcend language barriers, creating a universal understanding that invites others to join in the conversation.
For sure, Jennifer, humor has this unique way of instantly lowering the stakes in a conversation. It's like a bridge that helps people feel more comfortable and that sets the tone for a more engaging and pleasant interaction.
Body language plays a huge role in conversation. By maintaining open and welcoming body language like making eye contact and having a relaxed posture, you send a message that you're approachable and interested in the conversation.
That's so true, Jennifer. Positive body language is a silent cue that encourages the other person to feel more at ease. Simple gestures like nodding, facing them directly, and smiling can make a conversation feel much more inviting.
Also, make sure to be aware of their body language. If the person is leaning in or nodding, it shows they're engaged. On the flip side, if they're crossing their arms or looking around, it might indicate they're not as interested or comfortable.
Exactly, Jennifer. It's important to be mindful of the cues you're receiving and adjust your approach accordingly. For instance, if someone seems uncomfortable, you might want to ask more open questions or steer the conversation to a more neutral topic.
Body language can help you gauge the mood of the conversation. If someone's standing with arms crossed, it might be a sign to ease off a bit and try to make them feel more comfortable. Small adjustments can go a long way in keeping the conversation flowing.
You're spot on, Jennifer. Body language is like a conversation's unspoken language. It's just as important as the words we say, and being aware of it helps us better understand how the other person feels, leading to more successful conversations.
Timing is crucial when starting a conversation. You don't want to interrupt someone in the middle of something, but you also want to be mindful of when it's a good moment to approach. Waiting for a natural pause or an opening can make all the difference.
Right. Jennifer, timing can make a conversation much more successful. If you're at an event, for example, waiting for a break in the action, or when someone isn't preoccupied with something else, allows you to approach them without causing any disruption.
Exactly, in group settings, it's important to pick a moment when the person is not in the middle of a conversation with someone else. For example, after a group discussion ends, you could approach them with a casual comment, like, "That was a great point you made earlier."
And sometimes, even when you're in a one-on-one situation, you need to wait for a natural opening. For instance, if someone seems preoccupied, it might not be the best time to strike up a conversation. Patience plays a big role in timing.
Being observant of the other person's mood is also part of good timing. If they're smiling and relaxed, it's a good time to engage. But if they look stressed or deep in thought, it might be better to wait or approach them with something light to ease into the conversation.
Absolutely. Jennifer, the goal is to find that perfect window when the person is open to interacting. Good timing can make the difference between a successful conversation and one that feels rushed or forced.
Well, Thomas, we've covered some great tips today on how to start conversations with strangers. From breaking the ice with humor to paying attention to body language, these strategies can really make a difference in your social interactions.
Exactly, Jennifer. Whether you're meeting someone for the first time or joining a new group, these tips can help you feel more confident and engaged. Starting conversations doesn't have to be intimidating, it's all about finding the right approach.
Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope these tips make your next social interaction a little easier. Remember, practice makes perfect, so keep trying and stay relaxed. You'll get better with each conversation.
That's right, Jennifer. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. The more you practice, the more natural these conversations will feel. Until next time, take care and keep practicing your English skills.